and welcome to another part of the Warrior Within Docuseries. I'm your host, Jaime Bennett, and as always, viewer discretion is very strongly advised. I have a very, very special episode in this part 7 of the docuseries. Yes, you heard me right, part 7. It's been an incredible journey so far. I've had a lot of incredible guests on this show. This show is a little bit different because this is their journeys. This isn't my journey. They're going to be telling you their stories, their life's journeys, and how they have become warriors within. We all have a story to tell, and this is their story. I have a very special episode for you all because I have a co-host on this episode. She has been on my show several times. I consider her a sister and a very, very good friend, and I appreciate and respect her so much. She's an incredible, amazing human being, although she would say that she doesn't think so. I know her too well. But Madeline Moniz is going to be my co-host, and we have a very special guest by the name of Shannyne, and this is Shannon's journey. I'm going to bring Madeline up first because she's my co-host.
Hello.
Hey, thank you for co-hosting.
Pleasure.
I always love having you on the show. It's always incredible having you on here. Now, the topic and the journey that we're going to be speaking upon, you've already talked about on the Warrior Within TV series, which is Chiari malformation. And that's why, it's very, very important for you to be a co-host on this episode, because me being a person who doesn't understand a lot about it, I've never heard of it before I met you. And you told me that you had it and you told me what it was about. It's good to have you on here as another viewpoint because I would not know any of the questions to ask. And I wouldn't know anything about it because I don't have it myself. So thank you for co-hosting this episode with me. And you can co-host any of the episodes with me.
And thank you for having Shannon on too.
Oh yeah, she's an incredible human being. You all are in for a treat. She's a very, very incredible human being. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her up on stage. She's waiting in the green room, so hang on just a moment. This is Shannon, and she's going to be talking about her journey. Hello.
Hey, Shannon.
Hello. How are you?
We're good.
Good. Thanks for being a part of the program.
Thanks for having me.
So like I said, you are going to be talking about Chiari malformation and what that means. And it's good that Madeline's here because she can kind of walk through the steps of this. When were you diagnosed? Is it a recent diagnosis?
Yes. I was actually diagnosed on March 12th of this year, 2024.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Took about 21 years of symptoms progression before somebody actually listened. So it's been a long road, and it's still going.
What was your initial reaction when you finally got the diagnosis?
In all honesty, for about a year, I have tried to get an MRI and was denied twice, 2 separate times. And we had thought maybe it could be just because of the symptoms and everything that I know people have told me over the last year. And so when I went and did the MRI, I didn't even get home from my doctor's appointment when I got a notification on my phone that I have a new document to read on my portal. And so I, hurriedly went to the portal and I read the report, and it was just like super, super emotional. I called my mother, and because she's a nurse, so I have been talking to her about the symptoms and the progression. She kind of actually helped me make a journal, so to speak, because from age 13 to now, it hasn't always been the same. The symptoms have actually progressed a lot over the years, the most within the last 2 years. So it's been a long journey so far.
Madeline, how long ago were you diagnosed? And like the same question, like when you were diagnosed, what thoughts ran through your mind?
I was diagnosed in October of 2010. It took about 15 years to be diagnosed, and it was a chiropractor that actually sent me to get the MRI. And when my chiropractor called me in his office and gave me the results, actually, after waiting 15 years and having the doctors basically telling me, making me feel like a hypochondriac, I actually felt vindicated. And I actually started laughing in the office until I went home and I researched on the computer. And that's when it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, I've looked things up on the computer because, my daughter was in the NICU, and it in no way compares to, Chiari malformation, but my daughter was in the NICU, and like, I looked up something the other day because she's been having a lot of acid reflux here lately, and she has a fundo wrap. She had fundo wrap surgery, and I looked that up, and I scared myself half to death. And I was like, "That's the first mistake, is looking it up and then not being able to understand it."
Yeah, it makes it very scary, the symptoms that you can see online.
Oh yeah.
And most of them even say that the things are going to result in death. So I try to steer clear for certain things, for sure.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I have one question for you, Shannon. Have you ever gotten, because I know I mentioned to you, this copy of Conquer Chiari from Amazon?
I have not.
I
send me that
highly,
link, I will.
It's only $20. I highly recommend it because basically it's a patient's guide to Chiari malformation, and it is actually written by a guy, Rick Labuda, that he actually had Chiari malformation. He has it still, and he went through the decompression surgery and so forth. So not only does he talk about his journey in here, but it also discusses. There's many chapters in here that one discusses. Of course, I know you were looking into the surgery, but one does discuss finding a neurosurgeon. It discusses, also discusses surgery, the surgical experience, and things that you could do afterwards, and so forth. It gives you a guide, and it also will also is also for people like me who chooses not to have surgery,
right,
and to do the wait and see approach. But
right.
it's funny, this there is also a chapter, the last chapter in this book, 10 Steps to Conquering Chiari. So it gives you, whether you have surgery or not, it gives you ideas and things.
That's great to have.
Wait, it is. And I use this is like my Bible. But because I know when I was first diagnosed, my response to things were, when there were activities I couldn't do, instead of me saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, this book actually helps me to change that thinking to, how can I do this, or how can I do that?
Right.
Because, you still can do things. We just have to change our way of doing things, not to aggravate our symptoms.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend that you purchase
I will definitely have to get it.
There's two editions, but it's the second edition
The second one.
because it's more updated information.
Right. I would definitely have to get it. Just gonna give me that link, and I definitely will do it.
I will.
And I'll definitely put a link to it in the show description whenever this goes to air. If you all are watching this right now, this is pre-recorded, so if we don't answer your comments on the screen, don't think that we're ignoring you because it's pre-recorded. The secret's out of the bag. Oh no, but it's pre-recorded. I like to do my shows.
We'll watch. We'll watch when you record it. So if people ask questions in the comments, we'll answer them.
We will try our best to get back to the comments and answer you all's questions. Don't worry about that. Madeline, I have a question for you, and I don't think that I asked this when you were on speaking on this topic before, but I imagine the agoraphobia came before the Chiari malformation diagnosis. Is that correct?
Yes. The agoraphobia. I'm tongue-tied. It wasn't really a result of my symptoms.
Yeah.
You know, I've had agoraphobia, but being so symptomatic, it didn't help. It didn't help things.
Yeah.
I was already prone to that, but it didn't help. But once I was diagnosed, and once I realized it did kind of help the agoraphobia, because here I went to therapy and it's like, oh, do the breathing and this and that and to relax, whatever, and none of that helped. And the reason why it didn't help is because it was it was something physical that was bringing it on, and not just my mind playing on me.
That's a double whammy there. That has to be rough. Like I don't even want to imagine it.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Like I don't even want to think about it. Like I feel for both of you. Like I don't understand it, and like I said, the first time that I'd ever heard of something like this existing is when Madeline told me. And then when she told me, I watched whatever videos she sent me and I started researching it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel for you both.
I know. When I tell you, or I tell a few of my friends when I'm having a bad day or a very symptomatic day, I just send a text. I feel like death. Because that's basically what it feels like.
I had a pretty hard day yesterday. Yesterday was one of my hard days this week, for sure.
Goodness. Like, I know when I'm having issues, like I have real bad kidney problems and I get sick and it wears me out and I have a hard time accomplishing things. It in no way compares to Chiari malformation, but like I know that I get tired and I have a hard time accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish during a day. And I don't work very many hours a week at my job, but man, it really, really wears me out. I can only imagine like having this and what a day looks like for you all. Like,
well, I don't know about you, Shannon, but to me, it's scary, because you know when people say, oh, I have a headache, or our headaches are different, and it's just this freaking scary sensation in our head that it's like, I don't know how you feel, but it's almost like we're in a freaking Twilight Zone, and it's like we're in La La Land, and it's like it's just it's a scary feeling. And there are times where I don't know if you do, but I could actually feel the swirling in my head and everything. And I feel like, almost feels like I'm about to pass out, but I don't. I just linger. And
I get
that's the
lot,
worst.
like if I go to stretch too fast or stand up too
Yeah.
fast, you get all black, or I see spots. And
Yeah.
if I haven't passed out, but I've been, like you said, like I'm real close to where I see like I'm fading. And then thankfully the last time recently I was doing my daughter's clothes in her bedroom, and they have a bunk bed. So I got up quickly to grab something off the bunk bed, and landed on my bed, and on her bed, I mean. And it's scary because, you know, what if you're not home when something like that happens? You know, or what if I have my 3 kids with me? Like, are they going to know how to help me, or, you know?
Well, with me,
Yeah.
it scares because I live alone, and it's like, what if I'm passed out? It's
Right.
like, nobody will know until they can smell the
That's
stench
almost
outside.
scarier. You know, I'm grateful that I do have some helpers. You know, I can't imagine when you have your bad day if you don't have anybody there with you. Like I commend you for that, because I do have a lot of help from my husband specifically.
That's good.
So yeah,
And that's important to have support.
I do feel for you there. I remember you and I had a conversation before, you know, off of air and stuff, and I can't imagine you having to be alone. So I'm at least like to be with you guys so you're not so alone, you know?
Yeah, I check up on Madeline quite a bit. I try to talk to her every day in the chat, and then I know when she doesn't respond right away, she's having one of her days, and I just
One of my death days.
wait.
I just go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna say, like, you know, when you are having one of your really bad days and it's hard to accomplish anything, like, what do you do to kind of help the situation out? Like, what's your, I guess, therapeutic process?
In all honesty, there are sometimes there isn't anything that I can do to get it to feel better. I have blackout curtains in my room, in my bedroom, so that does help keep the light out. I just try to close my eyes and get through it. Sometimes I do Epsom salt soaks. Doesn't always work for my neck because it hurts in my head, but it also goes down all the way into my shoulder blades. That about in between the shoulder blades. So they're still having to check to see if I have a syrinx and all that stuff. But CBD rubs, I mean, I've tried all methods of medication that they have given at this point. I've tried acupuncture. Nothing seems to work on those days. I went to the ER after a 9-day headache back when I had to quit my job in September of 23. And they gave me everything they can give me in a hospital setting, and it didn't do anything. I think maybe it helped for about half hour to an hour. And then after that, I went home. They couldn't get me in to do an MRI for another 11 hours. And I was already there for 10 hours at that moment in the waiting room, mind you. So I kind of gave up that night. So I went home, and I just try to get through those days. Recently, that was the longest 9-day flare, I guess, I've ever had. It was like just ongoing. It didn't have, and I was having to work, which I had to call in. And, you know, at the time I was a caregiver. So trying to take care of my elderly veterans at the time when I can't take care of my own self was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I ended up having to quit at the end of September. I
Goodness.
was too afraid.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was how your routine changed, because I imagine, like, you know, routines change when something like this happens.
Absolutely. As a mom of 3, I have a 8, 12, and 16-year-old.
Oh, goodness.
They don't get along most of the time. So it could be rough when I'm really struggling with myself, because no matter how much you say to your family, your friends, coworkers, you know, people that you know, what it may feel like, they can never truly understand, you know, how much it affects every aspect of everything you do every single day, like sleeping, waking, walking, everything, swallowing. So, you know, every morning, I am very slow to get up. I have to sit before I can stand. I can't have that mom reflex like I used to if something happens where you have to jump up and go do something, because I know that I might faint or almost faint if I do. So definitely I have slowed down on things that I have to do, pace myself for everything. You know, I can't clean my full house in one day. I definitely have to break that up.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. So
bless your heart. Bless both of your hearts, gosh.
Just don't clean the house.
Well, that's my other thing. It's like
that's when you should give
to clean up after themselves is so rough. Oh, gosh, you know, I give them even my 8-year-old has little chores that I give her to do to try to kind of help me out in a sense too, teaching them how to organize things or clean things that I would do that I can't always do because of me having a bad day, or, you know, I can't bend over without my head and my face feeling like they're going to explode. So my son, a lot of times, if I drop things a lot, that's actually one of my recent symptoms, is that I get tingling in my hands and I drop things. So my son, he picks them up a lot, you know, those kind of things that you don't really think about until you're having to have them help you do those kind of things.
We need a little trained monkey.
My goodness. Therapy monkey. We need a therapy monkey. Now, this may be a dumb question, and I don't mean it to be like rude or dumb in any
question
way.
is dumb.
Are there different forms of Chiari malformation, like different levels, different forms?
Well, a lot of times people were saying that they thought, like, on the scale from 0 to, they have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think up to 6 now. I just recently found out that what I might have is 1.5, which I didn't even know was an actual thing. Like, I thought it was just 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. And they said that it is something called complex Chiari, which I'm still reading about because it doesn't have a lot of information about it. But they're not necessarily a scale. Like anybody that has Chiari, if it's 3 to 5 millimeters or over, 3 for a child, 5 for adults, it's considered Chiari. But the other parts of the numbers basically mean, like, if your brainstem is further down, or if it's more compressed, or if the hole on your, I think it's your foramen magnum. I could be wrong, so don't hold me to this. I'm not a professional or an expert. But it does show if the hole is bigger, that they change that to like a 2 or a 4. I know the other ones can cause like spinal bifida in children and all those kind of things. But for KRE1 or 1.5 for what I have. Typically they don't. Some people don't even have symptoms, which is why it's so hard for people to get a diagnosis. So it's so very, it's a difficult condition or disease, or, whatever you would like to call it, for sure, because it's misdiagnosed more than it's diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah, like there needs to be more information on it, and they need to do more research on it. That's why it's good, that Madeline had been on the show before talking about it, because, it could help other people who just recently got diagnosed, or other
Right.
people who have family members who are dealing with it. It can help them learn more about it and maybe kind of understand what their family member is going through.
Right.
Well, they are finding that the herniation, how big or how small the herniation, it doesn't matter on the symptoms, and that's what makes me, for myself, I don't want to discourage you, Shannon, but that's what makes me, hold off on considering surgery, because some of us have. There's some people that have Chiari malformation with no symptoms, and they have herniations, and there are people that have herniations that have symptoms. So why is some of us have the symptoms, and so it's more than just. A lot of people get this, discovered they had Chiari just by chance, because they had to get an MRI done for some other reason, and here they have a 10 millimeter herniation with no symptoms. So it's like,
and it definitely depends too on your cerebral spinal fluid flow, because if you aren't having a blockage at all, you shouldn't have a ton of pressure problems in your brain or even in your neck and things like that. But if you have a blockage, or it's even if it's compressed enough, just to compress it enough to where you get a little bit of a decreased flow, you're going to have more symptoms than someone that has no blockage at all. I did have a spinal tap when I was 5, but I didn't start having migraines until I was like 13. I was diagnosed by 15 with chronic migraines. Tried tons of medication even back then. Nothing seemed to help for very long. Or I almost felt like I was in my head that it was helping. Like before, I would take ibuprofen like candy, and think that it's going to help me. But it was more of like I was taking it for peace of mind kind of thing, And then as I got older, I had just had more symptoms. When I had my kids pushing, I had a lot of symptoms, but they just contributed that to postural blood pressure is what they said that I had at that time, which obviously it wasn't. But over the years, I have more symptoms and more symptoms added on, to the point where, I can't exercise now. And I used to be a gym rat. I used to be a makeup artist and did things for cosmetic companies. And now I can barely do my makeup. Can't go on roller coasters, no horseback riding, no hikes. Can't be in the sun. Like there's just a huge list within the last 5 years that have actually worsened. Like I told you, the swallowing. I'm almost choked many times. They checked me for Sjogren's syndrome, which is what my aunt has. That was negative. They checked my thyroid. That was negative. Some of the doctors said that I was in need of psych meds. And that was
me too.
Pretty heartbreaking, It's not in my head, and I wish I could have let them feel my pain, especially as a mother, when you're expected to do so many things on a daily basis and a nightly basis, and you're trying to explain to people around you. But, there's always going to be some people that, call you lazy or think that you're lazy, or that just because they can't see your illness, that it's not there. And you're valid. Your feelings are valid. Your physical abilities or lack thereof, they're all valid, and people should listen more, because I know, I mean, my family might not ever say it, but I'm pretty sure that they have across their minds before, oh, she just doesn't want to do that, or her headache can't be that bad. But
well, that video that I sent in the chat with Josh Prey,
mm-hmm.
that's a video that I would send to people.
Yes.
To explain.
No, absolutely. Once they found out my diagnosis this March, a lot of people around me helped me or allowed me to do things more on my pace. Or, when I'm saying I'm having a hard time, they're not dismissive like they might have been, or, they're not getting offended by me not helping do something, because I felt guilty. I mean, even I do now, every day there's things that I wanted to accomplish that, by one or two things I've done, I just can't. So I don't make it like a big list anymore, like I might have done when I was able.
Yeah.
Just the little things.
Yeah, like, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like, just because you can't see, what's going on doesn't mean that the person's not hurting, that they're not going through something. That's very important. The only example that I can give of that is my grandma had something called tic de la rouge, and that was not heard of very often. Right. And it still hasn't been heard of.
I've never heard of it.
What it is like the nerves in the brain shoot, like they shoot rapidly, and it causes pain down in your jaw, constant pain, excruciating pain. And my grandma had to go through that. And the only person that could help her was actually a dentist. They did a alcohol block. And that alcohol block helped for quite a few years. But before the dentist did that, before, my dad was able to take her to St. Louis, because this is where it happened, and it happened in like the 60s or 70s, they didn't know what was going on. She was having all this pain and couldn't make it through a day. And a dentist actually did an alcohol block, and that's what helped her more than anything. Like, it numbed her jaw, like she had a numb jaw for the rest of her life, but
no pain.
No pain.
Yeah, I would take it for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have pain all the time in the tooth that had a root canal.
Oh goodness.
So there's no nerves left in it. And I went to my dentist sent me to an oral surgeon, and basically that's what the oral surgeon said was it was a nerve in my head that's shooting down into that tooth with no nerves, but in the gum area, and was just causing pain.
I get something called trigeminal neuralgia. It's kind of similar to the nerve thing, and it only happens on one or the other side. It's never the same all over. It's only one side of my head or the other, and it basically does the same thing. We don't know what triggers it, but every so often it'll happen. And just to touch the face or brush my hair or like chew on that, whatever side it is extremely painful. And they said it's something to do with the trigeminal nerve and vagus nerve or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it has anything to do with Chiari or, if that's just something completely separate.
Yeah. I know
the Chiari effect does affect the vagus nerve.
Oh, it does?
Yes, it does.
That is good to know.
And also, I forgot what nerve it may even be the vagus nerve. I'm not sure which, but you said you had problems swallowing.
Yeah. And it's not every single time, which is also frustrating because I want to show the doctors, but it's like every time I'm at the doctor's, it's not happening at that moment, so I can't be like, this is what happens when I eat, it's random. And then my family's freaking out at the table. Like, are you going to be okay? Do I need to go get the thing? Because of this, we have some kind of equipment, I guess you would call it. And it basically, you pull it and it will give you, in a sense, a Heimlich for choking. Because my mom was afraid that no one here would be able to do CPR, didn't know, and that would be the only
Steak
thing.
is tough.
Yes. I'm doing myself
but you know something, that's one of the symptoms that probably won't go away even with decompression surgery, because nerve damage is already done.
Right. And my doctor was saying that too, which is why I get so frustrated, because, I've been trying to tell people, so many doctors over the years, it's like I said, it's been 21 years and I'm going to be 35 this year. I felt like a lot of my life I have not got to do what I wanted to do because it's always been this way. And, even before that, I was born a preemie. So my beginning of my life was very difficult. I was kind of in and out of the hospital back then. And then I got meningitis at 5. So that's my first spinal tap, and then, I just have had a lot going on. So I feel like if more people would push to advocate, not hope the doctor is going to say, hey, we're going to give you a scan, or, hey, we're going to do this, but do the research yourself too, because that's kind of how I got them to give me my MRI. I had to type up my symptoms and physically make them take it and look at it, because me telling them over and over, it wasn't getting in there to explain to them, these are happening. It's not sometimes, it's every single day. And I cannot function, cannot mom, I cannot wife, I cannot rescue. And, that's another thing that sucks for me too, is I want to be in rescue again. And it's really difficult to foster or, help do any kind of transport or anything when you don't know if you're going to even be able to get out of bed tomorrow, so it's rough.
Yeah, it's hard to plan.
I can't. And I feel so guilty a lot, trying to make plans, or my kids want to make plans. And there's a lot of times where I have suffered through for the sake of other people. But I feel like there's only one childhood for them, so I don't want to miss it all for the sake of myself. But at the same time, I'm I want them to know that I am truly trying, but it's hard. It's really hard.
And I think that, especially moms who have, what you have, or have some other thing going on, we're harder on ourselves than our kids are going to be on us. A lot of times we have to stop and think about that. While I'm trying, I love my kid, I'm showing them that I love them, and I'm present. Just being present a lot of times is the big part of it. And I think that we're harder on ourselves than the kids are.
I think you're right. It's so hard because you have that guilt,
Yeah, and I understand that. I get that. I have that too with my daughter. My daughter's a NICU baby. She was in the NICU. She had lung surgeries. She has a slew of things going on with her. She had seizures when she was younger. She's doing really well now. She's 13. But, I think the important part is just being present there for them and just doing what you can. You may not be able to accomplish everything, but they'll look back on it and they'll remember, hey, my mom was there. She was trying to do this, and she had a headache. I think it's important to just be present. And
you
that's
know,
a
even
lot
in
of
the
times,
morning,
that's what people don't realize, with these conditions is like, they judge. They're too judgmental. Like they are way too judgmental. Oh, look at that person, they're just sitting there and they're not playing with their kid. They don't understand that it breaks our hearts when we can't accomplish everything that we set to accomplish in that day. Like, people just don't get it. And I think that if you don't get it and you don't understand the situation, you shouldn't speak upon it. That's
right?
why Madeline's here co-hosting, because I don't understand
Yeah,
Chiari malformation. I slightly understand it, but I don't understand it, and I'm never going to pretend to understand it or, put myself in your shoes.
right. You know, and I think the hardest for me is the people that it's almost like, excuse me, some of the people that personally can be the most judgmental. Um, it's not necessarily the strangers that might you might come into contact, with either being a client or at work or something. Um, um, for me, for example, I felt like my in-laws. I love them. They know I love them, but they um, don't understand these kind of conditions, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a friend. Actually, she was my best friend. We're no longer friends now, but she had health conditions and so forth. And we had plans to go out to dinner, and our plans got canceled because her comment was, "Well, if you can have an episode, I don't want to go out to dinner." So it's
That's
like,
terrible.
okay, go, forget it then.
That's
I've had
terrible.
similar situations, where I had wanted to do something or, made plans with a friend or a family member. And, it comes to that point and you, like I said, you cannot know how we're going to wake up. So when the
Yeah.
day comes, or like I could be okay in the morning and then in the afternoon be terrible. So I felt like there's times people thought that I was being flaky when in fact I'm at home miserable and they just can't quite grasp it.
It's like just because
Yeah.
we could do one thing one day, it doesn't mean we could do it the next.
And
No,
sometimes
and
I overdo it that one day I feel good and then I wish I hadn't because the next day I end up having a flare. But it can
I
feel good
totally.
sometimes. You're like, I want to get it done right now while I feel okay.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so like laid back and relaxed with this show, because I know I have bad days with my kidneys, like, and I know that doesn't no way compare to what you all are going through, but like
I've never had kidney pain, but I've had gallbladder pain and I can imagine it really hurts.
it is pretty painful. It wears
Yeah.
me out. I'm tired. Sometimes I don't feel like being on camera. I don't feel like, as lovely as you both are, sometimes I don't feel like talking to other people.
No,
Like,
I agree. I could so understand that feeling. And that's why I try
like,
to be flexible too for you guys.
oh, I appreciate that. Like, for you guys in the audience, like Shannon and Madeline are both awesome, because like I had to
Thank
cancel
you.
this once before, and it ended up working out because we all had things that we had to do
Yeah,
during that particular time. So I really appreciate that you all are flexible.
I try.
That thing about your friend Madeline, that just makes me sick. Like, people not
Yeah,
understanding. You'd think that a friend could understand that. Like, if they're any kind of friend, that they would have your back, they would understand that. Like, that that bothers
I
me.
I'm done. Don't let it bother, because you know what?
I kind of feel
I've lost quite a bit of friends along
me too.
this
Me
journey.
too. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's almost like, you know, I don't necessarily expect people to be my friend because I don't want people to think I'm intentionally letting someone down when I would never do something like that, you know. But
Yeah.
sometimes people get very, you know, defensive or are sensitive about certain things. And they might even tell you, I've actually had, I won't say names, a really super close friend. Like I loved her, you know, and because of everything that was going on for me, one day I saw like your recommended friends or people you should friend or whatever, and she was on there, and I was like, when did she unfriend me? And then I go to talk to her and just ghosted. Didn't even give me a reason for, you know, not wanting to talk to me. But I can almost guarantee it's because I've had to reschedule or I've had to cancel, and she just seemed like so mad at me about it. It was kind of out of my control.
Yeah.
I had a friend that he would constantly criticize me of this and of certain things, and it would literally drive him nuts. And I had an appointment to see a neurosurgeon up in Yale, New Haven, which is an hour away. So he had to take me. So I had him come in to the room with the doctor, with the neurosurgeon with me, and he had questions for the neurosurgeon. And let me tell you something, that neurosurgeon set him straight.
Good.
After that, he did not criticize anything.
Good.
And one thing that I can no longer do, which I used to, I can no longer multitask, and I can't multitask when I'm driving. Now, when I'm driving, don't talk to me. Don't ask me a freaking question unless you want to get into an accident, because
Yeah.
I can't drive and listen to what you're saying. And I have this one friend that I take her shopping because she can't go on the highway. She's an older person, and she's like, "Are you listening? Did you hear what I just said?" It's like, "Do you want to crash?"
Right.
It's like
Like tunnel vision.
I don't. And even when I'm not even doing, I have days even when I'm not even doing something. You don't ask me questions because I don't have any answers. Even if you ask me like a simple question, what is 1 plus 1? There are times where my mind, I get a little disoriented at many times and confused, that I don't know what you're asking of me.
Right.
Even if it's a simple question, I don't know what you're asking.
I so
And
understand.
that's something that people don't get. Even if it's a simple question, do you like the color
Brain
red?
fog is really hard.
Yeah.
Uh, I have to do homework with my kids, and I feel incredibly stupid sometimes because something simple, like, you know, you said 1 plus 1, um, doesn't end up being 2 for me at that moment, or I can't comprehend the question
Yeah.
on my 16-year-old's homework, you know, or even my 12-year-old's homework, and it makes me mad, you know, and frustrated because I know I'm smart, and you know I've been to college, and I'm just like, I want to help my kids with their stuff, but it's just, I feel disoriented a lot of times, almost like dreamy in a sense.
And that's kind of scary.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like when someone hasn't had much sleep. You know, I don't know if you've ever had like sleep deprivation, but
With sleep.
yes, right, exactly. And you know, in order for, I have to take medication just in order for me to do that, because if I don't, I'm up in pain. And then,
Yeah.
you know, when that happens for some reason, when I don't get enough sleep, then my eyes are completely blurry for the whole day, and like I can't do anything, you know.
I got a
So
question. I got a question for you. Can you sleep in a bed? Can you lie down in a bed?
I have a Tempur-Pedic, which sits up. So
I used to have a Tempur-Pedic.
that helps for me. But I'm just finding out that I also have sleep apnea. So they want to sleep a certain way. And number one, you can't sleep on your back. I can't sleep on my back.
No.
I've always had to sleep on my side because number one, I can't put any pressure. Like the pillows always seem so hard, For those of you out there, if you're wanting to try Squishmallows, those are the one thing that I've actually found in a Chiari group. My kids have them, so I use them, and it is one of the things that actually they don't press back against the back of my head or the side of my head. And it's what I take everywhere with me. Like even in the car, if I have a long drive, I'll have a Squishmallow. And that might sound crazy to some of you guys.
I never heard of that.
Can I go grab one real quick? Would that be all right?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. I'll grab them.
We should play the Jeopardy theme song. Do 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 do. At least she has a really pretty background, so y'all get to enjoy the background.
Not me.
I have all these pictures hanging up.
Well, if I open up the doors, you can see the birds, but then they'll start screaming. I had to put them in the dark because
we used to do
could hear. They could hear the talking. If I don't put them in the dark, if they can see, they'll hear the talking, and then they'll want to chime in.
Okay, so there's a size in between these two, but I only have two sizes, so I'll show you. This is a Squishmallow. It's like a soft, marshy, mellowy, like I've never felt anything so soft in my entire life. That's my daughter's. This is my little one. He goes with me everywhere. He's like a little dragon, but I'm telling you, Squishmallows. Look them up, and you can even Google Chiari and Squishmallows, and you'll have people in forums telling you that this is one of the things that they use. I have 12 pillows on my bed. I used to have to switch them every single day because I can't use the same pillow each day. It's like I have to have a different one. And these ones, they make me feel like I'm actually going to try and sleep without it pushing back, So if you ever decide to try them out, I know that they could be kind of funny looking, but I love them. They definitely are one of my absolute favorites.
I haven't slept in a bed in 9 years.
I've heard people say that.
I sleep in a recliner sitting up.
I wish I had one.
I can't, I can't use like you have the Tempur-Pedic beds that go up. I have my mom's and my grandmother's hospital bed upstairs. I can't even use that. I have to I need the arms rest because I can't turn over.
Yeah.
And there are times where I have to wear a neck collar.
Yeah, I actually have one. It also is a heat, or you could put it in the freezer and use it for either one. Like you can stick it in the microwave, and then you put it into like a sleeve, and so it could be cold or hot. But also, like
I've had one of those. I gave it away. It was too heavy on my neck.
Yeah,
I use the regular cervical collars.
Do those help you when, like, if you're in a car ride? There's times I'm in a car ride for a long time and I need something like that, I think.
You know what I use for a car ride? Because sometimes, I find myself at night sometimes like, it's
yeah.
But I take a towel, and I just take a towel and I just hold it. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm riding with somebody in the car, and I just hold the towel, and you're just holding it, and it just helps my shoulders and everything. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had to do that. And they sent me to physical therapy for 17 weeks. And it was like torture. Even though I told them that it was hurting, it was causing me to have headaches. They used, I don't know if you guys know what traction is.
Yeah.
Where they put it on your neck and like pull,
That's that's a big no. That's a big no.
Right. And they didn't
For
know at the time.
believe it or not, and a lot of I got a lot of negativity when I was in the Curie groups, but it was a chiropractor that almost killed me.
Yeah, no,
But
I'm not allowed to go to one either because I have
but
scoliosis.
it was a chiropractor that diagnosed me, and it's a good thing my old chiropractor had to retire because he had to have shoulder surgery, because I found this new guy in town, and the first time he did a complete exam, but he never cracked me. He never
Yeah,
twisted my neck. He does the traction on me gently, but he does it manually with his hands and very gently,
yeah,
and that does help. But having
yeah,
having somebody use that tracting, because he could, him using his own hands very gently, he can control the pressure.
right. Yeah, I wasn't ever allowed to go to one because I was diagnosed with scoliosis at 13. So they always told me basically not to have my back adjusted or anything because it could mess up your spine and cause paralysis and stuff like that. So if I didn't have scoliosis, I have friends that swear by chiropractors. I have a friend who is a chiropractor, and I'm so afraid to go, because of that. So I just stay away.
That's something I was gonna say too, is like this, doesn't matter what age you are, it does not discriminate against anybody at any age. Like that's
Right.
something that people need to understand as well, is, anybody at any age could have this.
Or
And
get it.
like you said, it's hard to diagnose. Like my husband's going through something right now. Like he gets headaches every single day, and he's had headaches for years and years and years. And they said, well, if we don't find anything on the MRI, more than likely is fibromyalgia, and it's terrible. Like he's
Yeah.
going through headaches every day.
Right. That actually is the same thing I told a good friend of mine, her son. I think he just turned 10, but he's actually had diagnosis since he was 6 for migraines. And I told her when I found out back in March to push to get him an MRI, because if he does have it, now would be the best time to start managing it, not waiting until they're older.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, if I would have known back then what I know now, there was a lot of sports, a lot of dangerous things that I did that could have absolutely had detrimental consequences. I mean, I used to do barrel racing,
Yeah.
um, if I would have known, I wouldn't have been able to do those kind of things. Six Flags, Disneyland, Universal Studios, they say that you're not supposed to go on those kind of roller coasters. And, I didn't know that because my neck hurt. I was a kid. I didn't know. And because they didn't know what they know now, they couldn't diagnose me, or, I didn't go to the right doctor or whatever the case may be. So, that's scary, all the things that I shouldn't have done that I did, and it could have made it worse.
Yeah. And like none of us are professional medical, we're not
Right,
doctors, but like definitely get a second, third, fourth opinion,
right,
like however many opinions you need to get until you get to the bottom of things. Like
right.
important. And it's important to find a doctor that you're comfortable with, that's easy to talk to, be like, hey, this is what's going on and you need to listen, and can we do this? Like, if
Right.
you find a doctor that's willing to work with you and, like, bring themselves down to your level and figure out what's going on, like, actually have an honest to goodness conversation, that's what's important.
Right.
Shannon,
Exactly.
what are you doing now for your symptoms, or do you see a
So
neurologist regularly?
I get injections monthly for migraines. It's called Emgality, and I have it every 28 to 30 days. It's not something a lot of people can even get approved. It's basically the last form of migraine medicine. And I can say that it has helped with my migraines, which they do think I have migraines plus other things along with my Chiari. Because I used to have about 22 migraines a month before I got my Emgality. And that's most of the month. And when I say migraine, I mean, like, you have to be in the darkness, no one talk, or everybody stay out of my room kind of thing, because I don't want to barf,
Yes.
And since then, I only have a few a month of those kinds, where they last a few days at a time, and I have like a migraine type hangover, so to speak. But I also take daily nortriptyline, which is supposed to help my nerves and my neck, which is the most painful for me. Like I said, from the base of my skull all the way, my spine hurts and burns until the middle of my my shoulder blades. So my next MRI, they're supposed to do a cervical spine, a full spine, one that's called like a scene MRI.
Yes, that's an important one.
And then something else I cannot think of off the top of my head. I have a neurologist appointment that I see July 16th. I have a neuroscience specialist that I see on July 1st. And then I can't remember the date right now, but they just scheduled me for UC San Francisco.
I got a question. Can you lie flat on your back?
Not without pain. When I did my MRI, I thought I was going to have to stop because I felt like my head was in a vice, like a literal vice. And when I lay on my back, it feels like it gets extremely hot back here, and it almost bulges. I don't know how to explain that to you guys. So I have to have ice. They had me sit up slowly, and then they gave me ice, and they had to monitor me for about, I think it was 15 minutes before they wanted me to drive home, because I kept hearing like whooshing in my ears.
Yeah.
So,
You do know that they have a stand-up MRI. You just
no.
can't get the scene study from it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe
But
if they do the other ones. I did not know that.
because a stand-up MRI is you're just basically sitting in a chair.
Okay.
And
yeah, that would be easier for sure.
It's not as clear, but depending on what they're looking at,
right.
maybe they, but you can't get the scene study from that, because that's more like a movie, because they want
right. Yeah.
to get the fluid flow.
Right, and that's what they want. They want to find out how much is blocking. They were saying that because I just got the images and a CD so that my mom can see, because she's a registered nurse and stuff too. So she was reading it as well, and then we posted it in a few places that she knows, and that's when they were saying that we definitely need to have more than one opinion. So I'll be seeing 3, but they're all specialists. The neurosurgeon that I was sent to, that is like high rated, he actually sent me to somebody else that works with it more on a daily type of basis. So I'll be seeing those 2, I believe July and August. hopefully sooner. They said if there's cancellations, they'll let me know. My mom, she works from home, and my sister also works from home. So they both said that they could drive me to San Francisco for my appointments if necessary, which is a huge help because there would be just no way. Number one, nerves going to these appointments are, I mean, it's extremely emotional just to be at the appointments, let alone having to drive 3.5 hours to your appointments and then back if you had to do it alone. So she said that she'll help me with that.
Well, that's good that you'll have somebody there supporting you.
Yeah. And she's been a nurse, an RN since I was 11, and she just did her master's and stuff. So she's up to date on a lot of things. So I really trust her opinion.
That's good.
For a lot of these kind of things. Yeah.
My mother-in-law was a registered nurse for the VA hospital. So like whenever I was going through, my difficult pregnancies and like my daughter having like chylothorax and stuff, like she really helped me to understand that situation. She really helped, keep me calm so I wouldn't lose it. So to all in the audience, like now you maybe have a little bit more of an understanding of what Chiari malformation is. Like shows like this are extremely important, and I am so incredibly thankful to have Shannon and Madeline again as guests on the show, because maybe they can help you all understand what it means to have Chiari malformation and to kind of put a face to it. Like I said earlier, don't judge somebody because of their appearance, their outer appearance. Like you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like you don't know what's going on in their life and how difficult it is for them to do everyday life. And it is important to take control of your health, take charge of your health, and get second, third, fourth opinions if you have to. And I think it's incredible that, the journey that you have both been on, and I just really appreciate you all sharing this. Is there any final questions or thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
Just don't give up. If you have something wrong with you, you know you more than everyone else. And don't take no for an answer.
Exactly. Madeline, would you like to say anything before we close out the program?
Basically, just you got to be your own advocate for yourself. Okay. And a lot of times people like Shannon had problems with the insurance companies. You know what? We pay into the insurance companies, fight for what we pay for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to my audience, if you have any questions, this is not live. It says live, but it's pre-recorded. It's the magic of, the movies and technology. But we will try to come back to the comments and answer your questions best we can. I will also put a link to those Squishmallows in the show description, and the book that Madeline had shared. And any links that you all want me to put in there, I'm more than willing to just send it to the chat.
Yeah, I was going to say, put that video I sent you with Josh Play. Put that, because that pretty much is straightforward.
For sure.
Most definitely. And I'll put the link to the other episode of The Warrior Within that Madeline talked about Chiari malformation. I appreciate you both being here so much. Thank you for sharing your journeys with us. It's very important. I have nothing but respect for both of you. My heart goes out for both of you. I wouldn't even want to imagine going through this, and just thank you for sharing your journey. To the audience, thank you for tuning in, for watching and supporting this program. I don't ever expect tips or anything, but I will put my link down below, or if Madeline or Shannon has a link for like any organizations they want donations to or anything, I will put that down below. And I appreciate all of you. I appreciate my guests. I appreciate the audience. And until next time, love, hugs, and blessings.